Hello friends, I'm Ugu. Today, put your calendars aside because I'm taking you to the end of a half-century wait, to the moment when humanity returns home. The massive structure behind me is not just a rocket, it's a 98-meter monument to our curiosity, our ambition, and our passion for pushing boundaries. For 53 years, no one has been there. No one has walked on that dusty surface. But now, everything is changing. Before we get into the details, I'll leave you with a glimpse of this massive display of power so you can understand what we're facing. If you're ready, Artemis begins. I'll continue telling you where we're going, but first, I've prepared a nice video, and then I'll share all the details. After half a century, humanity is preparing to return to the moon. Preparations for the first crewed lunar flight of this century have now reached their final stages. The Artemis II rocket has been moved from the Vehicle Assembly Building at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida to Launch Complex 39B. I find this part quite ironic because the world's fastest vehicle travels at just 1 kilometer per hour during this first part of its journey. There is a distance of 6 kilometers from the hangar to the pad, and it took exactly 12 hours to cover it. The same rocket will go to the moon and back in 10 days once launched. In fact, when the Orion capsule at the top of the rocket plunges into the atmosphere to bring its 4-person crew back to Earth, it will reach speeds of 40,000 kilometers per hour. A journey that starts at 1 kilometer per hour will end at 40,000 kilometers per hour. The last crewed exploration of the moon ended in 1972 with Apollo 17. Since that day, for 53 years, there hasn't been a single crewed mission related to the moon. In the last century, during the Apollo missions, a total of 9 trips were made to the vicinity or orbit of the moon. 6 landings were achieved on the lunar surface. 24 astronauts reached the farthest points from Earth, and 12 of them walked on the surface. In this century, the Apollo mission is being replaced by the Artemis mission, named after his sister in mythology, to start all of this anew. But why? Because during the Apollo era, the driving force was simply to beat the Soviet Union. Today, the motivation is a bit different. It's no longer just between the US and Russia, but a race among many nations. Moreover, the goal of the race this time is to become permanent on the moon and establish dominance. China, together with Russia, aims to establish a permanent base at the moon's south pole in the 2030s through their International Lunar Research Station project. India has announced its crewed mission schedule for 2040. In other words, the prize of this new space race won't just consist of planting a flagpole. The water reserves at the moon's south pole, nuclear fuel potential, and establishing strategic dominance will be the main goals. This is why Artemis aims to establish a permanent and sustainable base by bringing partners like Europe, Japan, and Canada along. Even countries like Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Germany, and South Korea are among those providing support. We are currently in the second phase of this mission, Artemis II. This is one of the most critical links in the grand plan. There will be no landing on the moon during this mission. Just like Apollo 8, the astronauts will loop around the moon and return. The goal is to test the systems with a crew on board. Because the ultimate target isn't even the moon itself, the real goal is Mars. The Artemis II mission will set several important records in human spaceflight. Astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen will travel farther than any humans in history. They will attempt to go about 7,400 kilometers beyond the far side of the moon. Additionally, this time the crew includes a Canadian, a black, and a female astronaut. The launch windows for the Artemis 2 mission begin in February and continue at certain intervals until April. The current plan is to launch early next month. The biggest milestone on the road to launch day is the wet dress rehearsal, planned for around February. Think of this as a type of countdown exercise. NASA's launch team will pump more than 750,000 gallons of super cold liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen into the rocket. If you recall, during the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission, there were hydrogen leaks. Engineers have applied the same fixes for Artemis 2. For this launch to happen, the Moon must be in the exact right position in orbit, and the most suitable days have been identified to ensure the Orion capsule enters the atmosphere at a safe angle for its return. If we were standing at the foot of the pad at Kennedy Space Center, we would see a 98-meter-tall monument, nearly the size of a 30-story skyscraper. The SLS is 15% more powerful than the legendary Saturn V, generating approximately 4 million kilograms of thrust at the moment of launch. While SpaceX's Starship is ahead in terms of thrust, it hasn't yet completed the certification processes for carrying humans. Therefore, SLS remains the most powerful operational rocket currently waiting on the pad, capable of safely carrying humans into deep space. At the bottom of the rocket, we see 4 RS-25 main engines from the Space Shuttle program. At the top, the Orion spacecraft has a habitable interior volume of about 9 cubic meters, roughly equivalent to 2 minivans. When launch day arrives, the team will head to Pad 39B. Systems will be verified, and the journey will begin with 8.8 million pounds of thrust. A flight path similar to the Figure 8 has been planned for this mission. The astronauts will pass 7,400 kilometers beyond the far side of the Moon, becoming the humans who have reached the farthest point from Earth. One of the crew's most important tasks is geological observation. They will analyze the craters on the lunar surface and the thousands of shades of gray and white, the albedo differences, with the naked eye. They will specifically scout potential landing sites for Artemis 3 and 4. On the return, the Orion capsule will initiate a precise deployment sequence of 11 parachutes before splashing down in the Pacific Ocean. The astronauts are carrying microscopic passengers called tissue chips. These chips, made from their own cells, will show how radiation ages organs at a cellular level. Also, the innovation that excites me the most is the laser communication system called O2O. Until now, we've always watched lunar images through limited radio waves, which is why the footage looked blurry. With this new laser system, the data transfer rate is expected to increase by about 100 times, meaning astronauts can send high-resolution video streams from 385,000 kilometers away. When that day comes, I will be at my screen for the live broadcast again. We are now ready to witness this turning point in history. Do you want to know the truth? The Moon is just a pit stop. The real adventure is only beginning. As we return to the silent, gray valleys of the Moon with Artemis, we are actually stretching one foot toward the red planet, Mars. Once this door swings open, we will no longer just be children of Earth, but travelers of the galaxy. Just imagine, the children watching crystal-clear laser broadcasts from the Moon today will be the adults taking the first steps in the dusty storms of Mars tomorrow. Every time I research this process, I feel that same rush of excitement because we are the first witnesses to the greatest migration story in history. As Metaverse Planet, I will continue to share every detail with you, from those massive engine ignitions to the smallest cellular changes in deep space. If you are like me, someone who looks at the sky and wonders what else is out there, having you by my side on this journey gives me strength. By joining the channel, turning on notifications, or simply jumping into the discussion with a comment, you can become a part of our small but passionate community. Your support is my biggest motivation for creating these detailed guides. So, I'm throwing the ball to you. When humanity establishes a permanent colony on the moon, what should be the very first important thing we do there? Let's meet in the comments. Friends, thank you for coming this far with me. But before you go, I have a special surprise for you. NASA has staged the preparation process for Artemis 2, the transport of that massive rocket like a sculpture, so artistically to the accompaniment of Mozart. If you want to witness the mesmerizing journey of this engineering marvel, I leave you with the 22 minutes of enchanting atmosphere prepared by NASA. See you in the next video.